To all my fellow 8th grade graduates, I'm honored to have been invited to speak here today on what I know is a very special day for all of us. It is also a special day for our parents and of course our teachers, who may be very relieved to see some of us make the trip across the lawn. Towards the end of our English class this year, we participated in the French Prize for Excellence in Written Expression. For this task, we were required to write about the most significant part of our lifetime. It was to be completed and handed in before the end of class and no later. It took me a minute or two to decide, then I thought about the first time I looked over the hill by the Warren Center at July Field. For the rest of English class, I chose to write about what would be some of the best years of my life. I chose to write about coming to St. Paul's. I entered into St. Paul's as a 5th grader, coming from a public school. It felt as though at that age it would be difficult to make a change, and I was nervous that I would not be able to do well in a new school. But what I have noticed over the years about St. Paul's is that it doesn't matter your past, but what school you came from. St. Paul's is teaching and preparing students, as it says on the school website, for college and beyond. St. Paul's takes the ordinary student and makes them extraordinary. St. Paul's takes the extraordinary student and makes them something more. Looking back on my transition to St. Paul's, I don't believe that there was any moment where I didn't feel like I was part of the St. Paul's community. The way St. Paul's welcomes its new students and makes them feel comfortable is truly awesome. If I took a look around at every one of my classmates, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a student who has been here for 8 years or a student who has been here for 1 year. There were over 20 new students who came to the school in the 6th grade, and even after just 6 months, it was difficult to tell whether they were new students or St. Paul's veterans. When I tour new parents around the middle school, they are always impressed with the beautiful grounds, extraordinary facilities, and of course they enjoy looking in on our classrooms and progress and how well the students and teachers interact. However, when I have often asked the question, why did you choose St. Paul's? My response is not the awesome cafeteria or the Euclid vending machine at the athletic center. My response is always something similar to because of the way the school makes the students feel that they are part of this community from day one and that we are all part of something bigger here at St. Paul's. In my 4 years, the primary lesson or saying that frequently came up in chapel services or assemblies is, be a part of something bigger than yourself. Being a part of something bigger is difficult, especially as a teenager, when it almost feels like the world is only meant to revolve around you. In the middle of the year, in 5th grade, we went on a service-learning field trip to Fresh Meats Farm, where we picked kale to help those who did not have an opportunity to live a life as blessed as ours. In 6th grade, we spent the day with children who were also not nearly as fortunate as our students, who often feel good about themselves, to feel part of our community. In 7th grade, we went on a Chesapeake Bay Foundation trip to help clean up trash scattered throughout the Bay Area. This year, we began a project with the lower school students to create a community garden. St. Paul's is always helping students understand that sometimes your personal cause needs to be set aside to assist with something bigger. I believe that our time in middle school has prepared us for years to come, but of course, we will always miss the camaraderie in the hallways in the middle school classrooms of Chapin Hall. From the 5th grade Williamsburg trip to the St. Paul's 8th grade marathon and all that was in between, everything has been something to remember. For our 8th grade year, our class has had some experiences that are hard to forget, even though some of you may try. Let us begin with the 8th grade trip. In September, we loaded the buses to head to the wilderness of West Virginia. We were able to watch movies and relax in the comfort of our coach buses. However, it should have been a sign of things to come when the buses couldn't navigate the roadways heading to camp, and we had to make the trip in the rain with all of our belongings in plastic bags. We hiked to our campsite to set up our tents, but 30 square feet of tenting is no match for 3 or 4 8th graders in the rain that kept coming down. Needless to say, everything was wet. I mean, everything. We hiked, cooked, and ate together, and of course, goofed off a lot, even though the weather was pretty awful. I'm pretty sure we will all remember that trip forever. Oh, I also forgot to mention, there weren't any bathrooms. But there were latrines though, that was great. This was our year as 8th graders to dominate in the annual dodgeball tournament. The tournament was full of tough competition, and of course, amongst the 8th grade, tons of trash talking. But in the end, all that trash talk was for nothing. The 8th grade had lost to the 7th grade. I shouldn't have included that. At the end of our year, in May, our class ran the inaugural St. Paul's Mini Barkley Marathon. Forecast for this 8th grade event was rain, and more rain. But in reality, the race is actually making the race fun. We were soaking wet, and some of us were slathered in mud, but it was quite an event to remember. And I'm pretty sure that I speak for most of us, though, that the best part, however, were the hot dogs at the end of the race. Next year, when we move across the lawn to the upper school, we will be adding 30 new Crusaders. It will be a time to welcome these new students and to make sure they feel included in our community. In closing, I want to say thank you for the guidance and wisdom from all the teachers and faculty. St. Paul's would not be such a great place without all of you. I would also like to thank Mr. Woods and Mr. Fowles for yet again another wonderful year. Of course, we all need to say thank you to our parents for this opportunity that you have given us. And also another thank you to the parents for driving us to school, even when all the other schools in the area were closed for snow days.
Parents, let me join Nate and on behalf of our middle school faculty and administrative team, say thanks for all you have done to support us and your sons in this important initial leg of the adolescent journey. But our thanks to you is probably not nearly as important as the thanks that I'm sure these guys want to give you. So why don't all of you stand up? A round of applause for your parents who've done so much for you. Several months ago, I used a quote from Teddy Roosevelt in one of my weekly newsletter articles. Upon reading the article and the quote, a sixth grade parent encouraged me to read a book entitled River of Doubt. This book chronicles one of the last expeditions embarked upon by Teddy Roosevelt. I've always been fascinated with the life of this first of the Roosevelt presidents. While I can say that I don't always agree with his foreign policies, his notions about race relations, and his interpersonal skills, I do have a great sense of admiration for a man who clearly had the courage of his convictions and never seemed to back down from a challenge. This former Rough Rider was the appropriate leader of the Bull Moose Party when he failed in his attempt for a third term in the White House. The River of Doubt, or Rio da Dúvida, how about that, focuses on Roosevelt's goal of trying to reach one of the inlandmost mouths of the Amazon River. The territories they were to explore were for the most part uncharted, unmapped, and contained some of the most dangerous terrain in the southern hemisphere. A passionate naturalist with expertise in plant, animal, and bird identification, Roosevelt envisioned this trip to supply various museums and the National Geographic Society with significant volumes of information, photographs, and collectibles. What he did not anticipate were the hardships, sickness, death, and challenges that the trip to and on the River of Doubt would provide. So to be an admirer of Theodore Roosevelt, you have to be one who embraces risk at the highest level. And I'm not talking about risk that is associated with trying something that is totally foolish and fraught with lack of thoughtfulness. Roosevelt's risks seem to be always characterized by first surrounding himself with so-called experts in areas where he had limited knowledge or expertise. Secondly, by placing almost blind trust in those individuals he selected to be his colleagues in his risky adventures. He was not a micromanager, but gave colleagues the power, means, and trust to accomplish great tasks. The trust that he demonstrated in his adventures in South America were almost his undoing. Fortunately, though, he possessed another characteristic that allowed for his survival and a measure of success in his adventures on the River of Doubt. This is the ability to closely analyze your current situation, see how the future will be impacted by the present, and then make adjustments as necessary, however painful and humiliating they may be. All of us here today, and I mean all of us here today, have those symbolic rivers of doubt that we have either faced or will face in the future. For you 8th grade graduates, it may have been the 8th grade trip. Sounds like it might have been for a few of you. The Barkley Marathon, or the anxiety that you may have about the consolving trips in the 10th grade. If your luck holds out, it will probably rain during the consolving trips as well. No one moves ahead with absolute certainty about what the next day, the next week, or the next years will hold for them. Part of the life experience is learning to deal with doubts and fears. It is developing the resilience and fortitude to press forward when the clouds of doubt seem dark and ominous. And you guys know all about dark and ominous clouds. So what can we learn from Roosevelt's journey on the river of doubt? First and most obvious is that we are always better off when we are surrounded by others who believe in us. Roosevelt had those types of people around him. They truly believed that his leadership, with their input and support, would result in a monumental, never-before-accomplished adventure in an unexplored portion of the Amazon. As important as it is to have people who believe in you, you must choose those individuals who truly have the capacity to provide you with the most reliable information and sound feedback. This was almost Roosevelt's undoing. People whom he initially assumed possessed the great expertise for a successful outcome made poor decisions right from the start. Some even ended up being non-supportive of his efforts to embrace the native cultures that they would encounter on the trip. Fortunately for the expedition, Roosevelt knew when to be decisive and make changes that protected the interests of the larger group. He, in fact, even got rid of some of those people who did not make wise decisions and sent them back home. Over the next 4 years, you will be challenged in the classroom, on the athletic fields, in your artistic endeavors, and in the many social situations that will arise. There will be doubts, there will be anxiety, there are going to be some concerns. For some of you, there will be an easily identifiable river of doubt. Initially, you won't know how to navigate the obstacles that stand in your way. But like Roosevelt, surround yourself with individuals who believe in you. Be sure that those individuals possess the expertise, character, and honesty necessary to assist you in times of doubt. Always be willing to make the difficult decision, and that's the decision that is based on what is right and not necessarily what is popular. Finally, keep in mind this quote that hangs in my office and daily reminds me of the strength of character that comes when we challenge ourselves to take on those doubts and fears that are on the river of doubt. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again because there is no effort without error and shortcomings, who knows the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the high achievement of triumph, and who at worst, if he fails while daring greatly, knows his place shall never be with those timid and cold souls who know neither victory or defeat. The famous German poet and philosopher Johann Wolfgang von Goethe once said that there are 2 things children should get from their parents. And I think that it's probably appropriate that we add teachers to the statement. Goethe said, teachers and parents should give you roots and wings. As I stand here today, I believe that all of you are well rooted. You're probably thinking that you have heard too much from mom, dad, and teachers, all the adults in your lives. With regard to wings, like that process of developing firm roots, it takes time. It takes some letting go on the part of parents and educators. And more importantly, it takes the significant assumption of responsibility on your part. You must be willing to take the responsible risks associated with learning how to face fears and doubts that come with using your wings. So as Roosevelt says, dare greatly, travel the rivers of doubt, know the high achievement of triumph, and learn from victory and defeat. The faculty and I will miss you and all the energy you have brought to our hallways over the years. Come back and visit. We still want to be a part of your journey. We want to hear about your times in the arena and those successes and failures that will shape your future. Be proud. You are the class of 2020.
Brother, I will hear you.